Feast of Our Lady, or the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of the Church, and it's a fairly new feast. It's just a memorial, but this feast was inaugurated or instituted by our present pontiff, Pope Francis, in 2018. So as I mentioned, it's fairly new, and it's a very appropriate feast because Mary is not just our greatest intercessor, but she is a mother to each and every one of us. And it's important that we realize this, and it's important that we think of her as our mother. Now, in the gospel reading, we heard how Our Lady with some others were standing at the foot of the cross, but Christ gives St. John to Our Lady and Our Lady to St. John. And all scripture scholars say that in this act, John represents all the faithful disciples. So in other words, she becomes the mother of all believers. And when we think of our baptism, through baptism we become brothers and sisters of Christ. Well, if we become brothers and sisters of Christ, that means we have Mary as our spiritual mother, St. Joseph as our spiritual father, because we enter into the human family of Jesus, but we also enter into the divine family of Jesus. We enter into the life of the Trinity. So we become part of this family. But when we think of Mary as our spiritual mother and the mother of the church, it's not just because of this kind of adoption into the family of Jesus, but rather it's because Mary plays a crucial role in bringing about our salvation. In other words, the beginning of the church. And, scripture scholars point out that in the same way that Christ physically came through Mary, so the graces of Christ continue to come through Mary. And if it wasn't for Mary's yes to the angel Gabriel, Christ would not have come, the church would not have been formed. So Mary plays a crucial role in all of this. And in today's first reading from the book of Genesis, notice the passage where God is speaking, and he says, I will put enmity between you and the woman. So God is addressing Satan, the serpent. I will put enmity between you, the serpent, and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel. So this enmity, the word enmity means being sworn enemies, like very, very much opposed to each other. And only Mary can be the woman who is truly at enmity with Satan, because every other woman, every one of us, we have a fallen human nature. And because of that, we cannot totally oppose Satan. In other words, he has greater influence upon us because of our fallen human nature. So the evil spirits can tempt us, they can get us to fall because of our fallen human nature. Now, it's not to say that they can't tempt Our Lady. And in fact, an argument can be made that Our Lady was tempted in many ways. When we think of Christ, we think of his 3 temptations in the desert, and scholars once again point out that it may have been more, but those are the 3, and they kind of sum up all temptations. But in various letters in the New Testament, I can't remember if it's in the book of Hebrews or one of the letters of St. Paul, points out that he was tempted like us in all things, but without sin. And another passage says that because he was tempted like us in every way, he can relate to us. He can understand us. He can understand our weaknesses. And so also with Our Lady, she has to be able to understand us, to be able to have, compassion for us. And so she too, we could say, was tempted, but she conquered the temptations of the evil spirits, of the devil. And so she is victorious over them. So not just in regards to her saying yes to God, but also in regards to her saying no to the evil spirits. So yes, she's conceived immaculate, but she's also without any sin. In other words, she never consented to any sin. And hence this great enmity exists between her and Satan. And so Satan hates Our Lady, and as St. Louis Marie de Montfort points out, he fears Our Lady even more than he fears God. And I've spoken about this many times, often at many Marian feast days, but it's worth repeating. And so Satan fears Mary more than he fears God, not because Mary is greater than God. Mary, any good that she has is all from God. But for Satan to be beaten by God, it's not a humiliation. But for Satan to be beaten by Mary is a great humiliation, because as human beings, we are lower than the angels. And so for Mary, a lowly human being, to conquer Satan, his temptations, to say no to them, but also to bring about our salvation, it's a great, great, great humiliation for Satan. He cannot stand that. And exorcists point out that when they're doing an exorcism, there's the ritual of exorcism with various prayers, and they say that praying the rosary over someone who is possessed is just as effective, and in some cases even more effective, than the prayers of exorcism. And whenever the exorcists invoke Our Lady or a hymn to Our Lady, the evil spirits cannot stand it. They can't stand Our Lady. So this great, great, great enmity that is referred to in today's first reading exists and continues to exist. So when we say that Mary is the mother of the church, she helps to bring about the conversion of sinners or the conversion of non-believers, but she also mothers the church in the same way that a mother would mother her child. She nourishes the church, and it's all by the grace of God. In other words, she doesn't have these powers or abilities in and of herself, but only what God has given her. But she also protects us from the evil spirits. And, when we look at the amount of Marian apparitions taking place today, I can't remember if it was in Time magazine or National Geographic, but it was talking about the increasing number of Marian apparitions happening throughout the world. Now, the church can't examine all of them and approve all of them, and it's questionable whether they're all authentic or not. But there's definitely a larger amount of them, and there's been a lot that have been approved. And why is God sending Our Lady? And the reason is because he wants us to have a relationship with her. What kind of a relationship does he want us to have with her? Well, he wants us to understand that she's our greatest intercessor, yes, but he also wants us to understand that she is our spiritual mother. And what are mothers like? Think of a loving mother, a good mother who really cares for her children. What's a mother like? Well, she's going to work hard for her children. She's going to nourish her children. She's going to ensure that her children get a good education and all these things. And mothers are the ones that comfort their children more so than fathers. I'm not saying fathers don't, but let's say a child gets in trouble, and it's usually the father who's the harsh disciplinarian, right? And the mother is the one children run to for comfort and consolation. They say that the man is the head of the family, but the mother is the heart of the family, the source of great love and comfort for children. And we all need this comfort. We all need this consolation from a loving mother. So even as adults, Christ says, unless you become children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Children need parents. Children need the love of parents. Children need the guidance of their parents. Left to ourselves, we're going to go astray. So we need this motherly intercessor that we have in Our Lady, and hence today's feast. So let us do what we can, not just to invoke Our Lady to intercede on our behalf, but let us strive to have a great devotion to her, and let us entrust ourselves to her in the same way that a little child would entrust itself into the loving arms of its mother.